Hi there! Let's learn today all about the transform panel. The transform panel is there to help us to move objects, to change them, to resize them, to rotate them, etc. You can also use the transform panel to put an exact amount of it, or exact measurement of a shape or a place you want it to be, and also you can always see the measurement of a certain shape through the transform panel. So the icon of the transform panel is this small thing there. If you don't have it, you can always go to Windows and choose transform from there. Now you can always pull the whole thing out, and if you don't see all the options, it's like this, then you can go to this icon here and choose show options. I'll show all the options. Alternatively, you can always click on the small icon that's with all the windows, by the way, and you can collapse it or get all the options from there as well. Now, so I've selected this simple object. You can see there are a few elements here or stuff which I can change. This, first of all, this icon that you see here, that's the reference point. So this represents the shape here. So if I choose now, it's currently on the center point, I could change and choose there, that'll be this reference point. So any change I do will be in comparison to that point. So let's say I rotate it. We'll just demonstrate. If I rotate it, if I put it in the middle and I rotate, then you can see it turns around itself. But if I choose the reference point to be there, then it will do like a full on circle, because it's like it rotates around that point. So you can change any of the reference points. Now the X and Y values are the only values which are compared to the workspace, or to the artboard more like it, nothing to do with the shape. It determines the shape's position across the artboard. So you can change the position from here. You can obviously just move it like that, and you can also hold the arrow keys to move the shape any way you want, or with shift to move it at 10 points at a time. And you can see the numbers change there according to how I move them. Or you can just move it from here. So you can type in any number you want, or you can move it there and pressing the arrow keys up or down to change the values, or with shift to change them at 10 points at a time. You can even just scroll on your mouse, that'll do the same job. So that's for the X and Y value. The X is the horizontal value and the Y is the vertical value. You can change it there just as well. Also, another cool thing is if you want to type in an exact number, type it in with like another amount with 45 inches, say, then you can just type an inch and click anywhere else, and will convert it automatically to the whichever value you have for your document. So that's a cool thing. Now this W and H is for the width and the height of the element itself. So you can change it from here. Of course, once again, you can always enlarge it just by simply dragging it and enlarging it. Or otherwise, you can change it from this window and change once again the size of it. If you choose this icon, you can see it there. That will link them together, so that'll keep on the proportions. It won't make it into a square. People sometimes get confused. It doesn't have to be square. You can see here it's a rectangle, but just the proportions will be the same. It's the same thing as just holding down shift while dragging. That'll do the same thing. It just keeps on the proportions. So whichever proportions will be there, if you enlarge it on the width, then the height will also go up naturally. Now the next thing we've got here is rotate. You can also rotate this just by hovering over the corner, and once again you can rotate, or with shift to get 45-degree angles. Or otherwise you can rotate from here, or even using this arrow key to get these defined angles and change it around any way you want. We'll learn about rotate because there's a rotate tool, so we'll learn about that another time. Also the shear tool, there's another tool for that as well. What the shear does is it essentially, you can call it, basically squashes the element. So it just squashes it by how much you can change how much, or like moves it diagonally, however you would call it. There is a tool for that, so I'm not too worried about it. Just trying to get it back to the first place. Now you see here it says no shape properties, because this is a undefined shape. So if I get a proper defined shape, this I just created with a pen tool, by the way, that's why it's undefined. If I create a defined shape, so I go to these shape options here, and I pull out the shape, now you would see all the options for this shape. It will also work for an ellipse tool or the other tools here. So you've got here the width and the height. That's the same thing exactly as this width and height there, and you can constrain the proportions over there just as well. Now rotate is also the same thing as the rotate over there. I think the reason why we've got it once again is because it's under, if you look under shape, so you've got that same window here. So I think they just put both windows into this transform panel, and you also have a transform over there, by the way. So you can see that's the half transform panel, and then they combine this both, so that's why it has both. There is a difference though with the rotate here and this one, that with this rotate option, it doesn't make a difference where the reference point is. So even if you put the reference point down there, if you rotate with this, then you would see it still rotates around its own point. Unlike here, it will rotate around a different point. So that's one difference I found. Otherwise, you've got here, you can change the corner type. So instead of it having this straight corner, you can choose any corner from these, and you can make the size of the corner, so you can bring it in there and change it to whichever one you want. You can obviously once again link these, and this link doesn't link the shape of the corner. So once I link, so this is linked together, as you can see, this is to unlink it and this is to link. So it only constrains the sizes of the corner, or the how much indent or outdent it will be, but not the shape. You can see I can change each one individually. Now obviously it depends on which shape you have. So if you have another shape, let's get a circle. For an ellipse, then you have these, so these are the same ones as the last one, but here you've got these new ones. These are pi to make pies. This is the start angle and the end angle. You can choose whichever angle you want to give it, and you can get this pi. It doesn't have to be a full circle, it could be an ellipse. You can see that there, that's good enough, and you can make the pi however you want. You can choose this icon here to invert it, so that will do the opposite there. And just by the way, you can create it in an easy way, just going back there by holding onto that handle, so you can create it yourself and just make the pi. Also the same thing in this shape. Obviously you can just move it around with this icon. With a regular selection tool even, it also works. Then with the polygon tool, we have a cool option. And you see here, you can choose how many angles it will have. So it's the same thing as holding on that icon. Where did it go to? Oh, you have to choose the selection tool. I've got this icon over here. It's the same thing. So you can see I'm changing the dimensions, how many sides it will have. This is like a triangle, and I can go all the way to 11 points. So you can do the same thing here, or you can even type it in over there. And here, of course, you can change the corner type, or the roundness, or the size of it, etc. If one size of the polygon is bigger, let me just demonstrate that, then you can see you have this option, make sides equal. So it recognizes that the sides aren't all equal to each other, so you can choose make sides equal, and that will make all the sides equal to the smaller sides. So that's cool. Now the next thing is scale corners. I'm not sure what that does, because I mean, with the regular shape, it just, I think the corners are scaled already. I don't know what that, I can work out what that does. This is scale, stroke, and effect. So it's a very cool and important option if you've got a very thick stroke. And say I uncheck it, so now I won't scale it. Once I bring this shape down, then you can see this shape inside is very small, and the stroke is still the same size. So even though I brought the shape smaller, the stroke doesn't change. The stroke is the same size wherever, and only the shape becomes bigger or smaller regardless of the size of the stroke. But so you can see, if you get this small shape, it doesn't look very good there. But if you choose to scale stroke and effects, then that'll be very cool once you enlarge it or make it smaller. Sorry, I pressed it before. Here. Now once you make it smaller, then you can see it keeps the same proportions as before. So it will just make it by percentage wise, by the proportion, or keep it the same, and then you can get a very good looking square, whichever size it will be. even though the stroke was a very thick one. So that's a cool option. And the same thing with the effect, with whichever effect you put on it. Now I'll give you a cool tip. Say you've drawn something with a pen tool. So I draw this right angle triangle, let's say. So I should have held down shift there. Now as you can see, this isn't a defined shape, so it doesn't allow you any of the shape properties. Or even if you just draw a simple line or whichever it may be, then you can always see there's no properties option. If you want to change the angle there is a way to do that. You can hold the direct selection tool and press on it, then you'll see corners and you can access it from there. So that's cool. You can change the corner over there and the radius and all of that. Or you can also, in a shorter way, you can just press on that with Alt. So you press on that small circle symbol there with Alt, and you can see that icon there that changes the shape of it. So that's a very cool option. Or to access the corner panel easily, you can double click on it and that'll bring you the corner panel, the same thing. But in any case, just to get back to if you want to get these shape properties, you can go to Object and Shape, Convert to Shape. That'll convert that into a defined shape. And that, once again, you can choose it's like a polygon, so you can mess around with any of those and you'll get the same shape as it was. Or you can change it and you can use any of these options here. So sometimes it may be very convenient for whichever thing you're doing there. Same thing obviously with the line. And let me just show you with how to know if it's a defined shape or not. You can see on top there it shows you polygon, because that's a defined shape, so it actually names it. And you can see here once again, then it names it a rectangle. But if you would have a undefined shape like this one, which we just drew with a pen tool, then you can see it just shows path. So if you draw anything with your pen tool, it will just show path because it's a simple path and it's not defined. If you want to define it, then you just go to Object, once again, Path, Shape, Convert to Shape, and then you can see it changes it there to a defined shape line there. Now we've got here a few more options under this option place. So hide options, we showed that. You can just hide it or press on this icon, that will just do the same job. Now show on shape creation, that's a feature sometimes people get annoyed with it, because whenever they draw a object, then this transform panel pops up. What that does, if I just check it there, then even if I close the panel and now I create any object, it has to be a defined object, then this panel will just pop up. So it's like an easy access for any of these options there. But if you don't want it, you can just turn it off from there. I don't use it so much because I have all these options here in the properties panel. If you don't have properties, you can go to Windows and get it from properties over there. So I just find the properties panel to be a lot more useful, because the properties panel contains all these quick windows and relevant to whatever you're doing there. So you can see the transform panel over there, and you can get the full transform panel if you press on those three dots. So you can get everything from there. You don't need to get onto this transform panel. But in any case, you can choose whatever you want, and then flip horizontal. That will just flip the shape, either horizontal or vertical. You can also choose these icons in the property panel that flips them. You obviously can't see it because of the shape. Here now you'll see that I flip it, and this is like a quick access to them. I'm not sure why they didn't put that icon there on the transform panel itself. I'm not sure. Scale, stroke, and effects, that's the same thing as pressing that there. And like we demonstrated, that it preserves the proportions of the stroke and the effects. Now the next three options is quite cool. You can choose if to transform the object only, that means the object itself, or the pattern only. So let's just say we've got here a pattern. Say we've got this pattern, I was just putting out anyone, and you choose transform pattern only. So any changes you do, you can see that question, that exclamation mark, it shows you like a warning sound that it would transfer only the pattern. Any changes you do will take place only for the pattern. So it's very cool. I can make it larger and only the pattern will become bigger. So it's changing also the stroke. Let me just take off the stroke. We'll make it thinner. So you can see I made the pattern there very big, and it only takes place for those pattern options, not for the shape itself. The shape stays the same as it has. You can also choose to share all these or to move them around, so you can get some very cool effects from any pattern you're doing. Just pressing the arrow keys up and you can get these cool stuff there. I don't know, whichever shape you want to be or anything, you can just keep on going. And of course you can change the angle, so you can make some very cool stuff out of it just by choosing that option of only the pattern. And you can choose, of course, to transform only the object. That'll make any shape difference only to the object, so the pattern stays in shape. As you can see, it looks like a mirror or something. The pattern stays in the same place, only the object will be changed or moved even when I move it. So the pattern is like stays in the same place, but the object moves. Or you can choose both. And the last option, use registration point for symbols. That will just make instead of this reference point here, or put like a cross sign. Oops, I'll show you that. If I just put out a symbol, so say I've got this symbol over here. Now you can see there is a reference point here, and if I choose use registration point, then that will show this cross sign, and that means that this any change I do will be from the center outwards. So that'll be like irrelevant to the reference point, or otherwise you can just change it back to the regular reference point. I think the reason why they did it, because in older versions it used to be only that like cross sign, and now they changed it so they keep you that option. And by the way, it only works if you have one symbol, not if you have a lot of symbols with the symbol tool. So that's basically it. There are some more options. If you look at the object transform, you see there are some more objects here, and also if you right click on any object, you'll see transform, and there are more options. But each one of these are like a tool on its own, so we'll learn about that in future times. I'll just show you a small tip. If you've got here, let's say you move this around and you rotated it, or however you do it, let's just use a better shape for it. So say I've got this star here and I rotated it around, so you can see the bounding box now stays the same way how it was, and it could be kind of annoying sometimes if you like change and then you've got this bounding box in a weird direction. So you can always go to object, transform, and choose reset bounding box. That'll reset it to be straight, so it's as if this is the default bounding box position. So that's a cool option. And one last tip, just because I love these tips, if you choose your direct selection tool, you can choose any anchor point. It has to be only one, doesn't work with a few more. Then you can see on your transform window, you can use these options for this anchor point itself. You can see this anchor changes there, this shape that changes from that reference point to this anchor point. That's very cool, and you can change, so you can put exact measurements for a specific anchor point. Okay guys, that's a lot for today. Thank you so much for joining me on the video. If you gained anything, please give a like and subscribe, and don't forget to share any of your feedback, comments, ideas, or anything you want by the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.